Hello, welcome, Power Partners. This is our informational playground. Be the Star You Are. We're coming to the airwaves under the auspices of Be the Star You Are charity. You can find out information at bethestaryouare.org. I am your host, Cynthia Brian, and we are broadcasting on the Voice America Network, the Empowerment Channel, and we are also under Libsyn. We hope that you will be catapulted from wishing upon a star to imagining your dreams as if they've already transpired, because I believe that you need to be the writer, producer, director, and star of your own life. In today's show, we're going to spring into summer in segment one. And in segment two, we're going to talk about doctor appointments and how to shorten your wait for a doctor appointment and possibly what you can do to stand up for yourself when you need to talk to the doctor. The miracle moment for today, brought to you by Be the Star You Are charity, is from Cicero. If you have a garden and a library, you have everything you need. So I would like preface that by saying I definitely have everything I need because I have a big library of books. I have the foundation of Be the Star You Are, that is a another library of books, and I have a big garden. Now, right now, I am sitting at my computer and I'm in my library. I'm gazing out my French doors to my spectacular spring garden where hummingbirds are feeding from the lavender trumpet vines before they go splashing in my gurgling fountain. I have seven fountains because I've always wanted to be around water. And so this is the only way, since I'm not near a lake, a river, or the ocean. It's good to have fountains so I can hear water splashing. Now, when I can't think of another word to write, I will grab my boots, my gloves, my hat, and I have a new weeding tool called the Cobra Head. I go out and I dig more weeds. I really like this Cobra Head. It gets in between the cracks, like in the driveway, and I actually use it to plant seeds. So, Cobra Head, that's a kind of a cool thing. You might want to check it out. Now, spring is going to soon morph into summer, and I am attempting to get ready. I have been weeding for weeks, including all day today before coming on the show. And I have been watching my landscape just burst into glorious blooms. The hillside, the orchard, they are canvassed in cascading nasturtiums and bright orange California poppies and purple and white iris and buttery yellow calendulas and pink geraniums. Robust and romantic amethyst colored clematis climbs a trellis, while David Austin roses present an arc of sherbet hued deliciousness. I am fascinated with the heuchera, which are coral bells. I got these from Terra Nova Nursery. They're called changeling, and they're such an interesting species because the foliage changes colors from peach to cherry to champagne. Then it goes to taupe. It has several shades of celadon and moss and very beautiful deep pink stems. Can you see it in your mind's eye? Well, elegant and show-stopping, my rhododendrons with their deep pink petals are a superb understory shrub in an area where they receive dappled sunlight. The name rhododendron derives from the Greek words rhodo, which means rose, and dendron, which means tree. So rhododendrons are small trees, and they usually grow somewhere between 6 to 10 feet tall, and they usually get 5 to 8 feet wide. I mean, they can get bigger, but that is kind of the norm for them, and they are so beautiful. My fence of fragrant jasmine is fading, but thankfully the numerous rose bushes scent the air with their intoxicating perfume. If you walk outside, I mean, it just smells kind of like a natural perfume factory. I mean, not over the top, but just so luscious because it's just fragrant. Now, if you want lots of blooms for cut flowers and plenty of aromatic flowers for 9 months of the year, roses give the greatest bang for your buck. And in those 3 months that roses aren't blooming, you can count on camellias saving the day. Now, I was most surprised at the stupendous flowers of the snapdragons that I planted in late fall from just a six pack, which I think cost me like $3. I have these lush white and burgundy flowers that are topping these 3 foot tall stems, and they are really, really spectacular. Now, one of the things I'm doing as the blooms fade is you can propagate uh, snapdragons if you let the stems go kind of dry. They kind of start looking like skeletons. I mean, little tiny pods, and then you can cut them off and you can spread them around your garden. You pop the little pods and all these teeny tiny seeds fall out, and you'll get more snapdragons next year. I'm also trying to deadhead some of the snapdragons because I wanted them to continue blooming during the summer. The problem with letting them go to seed pods is when you let them go to seed, they stop blooming. So I'm kind of doing a mixture of both. So I just want to give you that info because it's kind of fun when you can propagate plants on your own and you don't have to buy them. Now, I think this is gearing up to be a wonderful season of fruit. Trees are heavy with lemons, limes, tangelos. My loquats are being harvested. And my cherries, I just harvested my first big bowl of cherries. Now, if the birds don't beat me to the buffet, my Queen Anne's and my Bings are going to provide me with cherries for the next couple of weeks. So that's a good thing. And I need to check more on the mulberries because they are ripe, but the doves love these delicious morsels. And they will eat them before they're even ripe. Now, you know they're ripe when the mulberries turn black. You probably heard the song, all around the mulberry bush, the monkey chased the weasel. I grew up with it. We had a mulberry bush, and we used to think that there would be a monkey and a weasel. Never saw either in there. But again, the birds just really, really can eat all of your mulberries. So if you have them, they're really good. You rarely ever, well, I should probably say never. I don't think I've ever seen mulberries in the store or the farmer's market. The only time I've seen mulberries is on somebody's tree, including mine, and I have both white mulberries and the purple ones. So if you can get your hands on some mulberries, you will really, really enjoy them. Now, summer is also a time for feasting on fresh fruits and vegetables. Lettuce, spinach, Swiss chard, they've continued to supply our dinner plates, and the cabbage and arugula have gone to seed. Now, there was a spring sale at our local farm garden, and I bought several types of tomatoes and eggplants and sunflowers. Sadly, the eggplants didn't survive. I still don't know what ate them. Something literally ate it right down to the dirt. So I don't know if it was a squirrel, a rabbit, could be mice, could be a rat. I don't know. Could be birds, but they're gone. Now my tomatoes are doing great. They're growing taller, and the sunflowers are blooming. And something fun about sunflowers, and I think that's probably one of the reasons they call them sunflowers, besides the fact they're yellow and they look like the sun, is that they face the sun. So they turn their faces towards the sun, whichever direction it's in. And so that's pretty interesting. I planted sugar snap peas to twine up the cages of the tomatoes, and I have been picking them to eat. There's nothing better than just popping a sugar snap pea in your mouth, even, not even cooking it, just raw. It's so good. And with warmer days on the horizon, I am really looking forward to a tomato growth spurt and hopefully a bountiful harvest because I have to admit, I am a tomato snob. I'm not a snob about many things, but tomatoes, grapes, oranges, I will only eat them if they're organic, homegrown, either myself home growing or, somebody I know because they're so flavorful. I find when I buy them at this store, my husband will bring home a tomato to put on a hamburger and it's just like cardboard. So I was like, don't bother. So I love to plant lots of tomatoes and then, eat them for as long as possible. And this year I had tomatoes until January, which was pretty interesting. Now, although I have a sprawling garden, I also enjoy container planting, as containers add a touch of elegance and practicality. I plant sage, thyme, and scallions together in a pot located close to the kitchen. And then I have separate containers of basil and parsley nearby. And when I'm cooking, containers filled with herbs nearby make it easier for me just to clip and snip whatever it is I need. I also always plant some tomatoes in a large container because they have done very well for me. I can move them around so that they can get the maximum amount of sunlight, which is preferably 8 hours a day. I also have urns of succulents. They greet guests at the front door. While on the patio, there's eye-catching displays of perennials and annuals, and I rotate that through the season, offering year-long interest. I feel that containers make it easy to indulge our gardening passions when space is at a premium because you can grow a mixture of flowers, herbs, and vegetables, and you can be rewarded with a movable feast for your eyes and, of course, for your stomach. So, as we spring into summer, I just want to remind you to protect yourself from ticks because I was weeding in tall grass. I've had two tick bites already, and that was actually before mid-May. There are approximately 850 species of this bloodthirsty parasite living in all parts of the world. And while ticks can drop off animals like deer and occasionally survive on less hospitable surfaces like a parking lot, they are far more likely to survive for extended periods in wooded or grassy areas. And many species perch on the edges of grass stems or on leaves on the ground, and they just wait for an indication of a nearby potential host, which I would say is me. And in favorable conditions, this is the crazy part about ticks. They can live weeks, months, or even up to a year without actually getting another feeding. So, to reduce your chances of tick bites, wear clothing treated with permethrin. Spray yourself with a deterrent with an active ingredient of DEET. And remember that ticks can also be carried indoors on your pets and on your clothing. So after being outdoors, inspect yourself, your children, and your pets. Check your hair, take a shower, wash your clothes. And if you find a tick, remove it immediately. And of course, if it's in a dangerous area, they seem to bite me in my neck, just like a vampire. I always end up having to go and have it surgically removed. So just be careful if it's near an artery or something. So I am very grateful for my garden and my library, and I'm working on a new book. It's just been sent to the publisher. It'll bring my total of published works to a dozen. I'll let you know when it's available. And in the meantime, let's just keep digging deep. And I do have some tips for my Goddess Gardener guide for June. So the first one is apply bug spray, preferably DEET, before working in the garden or hiking because ticks are ubiquitous this season. Deep soak trees when you notice leaf stress. I have two mega magnolias and they start losing their leaves when they get thirsty. So get a deep soaking wand and give your affected trees a drink when necessary. Walk with old socks through forget-me-not flowers as they are going to seed now. Now, why I say old socks is your socks are going to fill with the seeds. They're like little stickers that just stick, you can't get them out. And then you could go plant your socks wherever you want these tiny blue spring flowers to emerge next year. And they're very pretty. It's just when they go to seed, they're just kind of a nuisance. So, like I was weeding today and my gloves were just filled with these forget-me-not seed flowers. So I think I might plant my gloves. Now, deadhead roses as the blooms fade, and you'll have glorious sprays until next January. You need to be, well, that's if you're in a warm climate like California, Arizona, New Mexico. You need to be diligent and cut off the dead flowers weekly. That's why it's called deadheading. Clean your patio furniture and scrub last year's cushions, getting them ready for summer. You can fuel the flight of hummingbirds with a homemade nectar recipe. And this is what I do. I mix a quarter cup of refined white sugar with 1 cup boiling water. I do not add food coloring, not. Then cool, fill your feeder, and wait for your friendly flyers to arrive. Take photos of your garden in the late afternoon when the lighting is softer, and that way you'll remember and mark it. You'll remember what's growing and what's blooming when. Water your landscape in the early morning or evening to give your plants a really good deep drink. Watering deeply and infrequently is the key. Spray aphids with a mixture of dish soap and water at the first signs of infestation. Roses, helleborus, azaleas, mandevilla, and other plants are all susceptible. So when you see these little critters, mix up this dish soap and water. It really does the trick. You can scatter organic snail and slug bait throughout the garden as these mollusks are active. Sluggo works well. I found several great big snails in my garden. They are almost like, the size of escargot. Anyway, clean out the yellowed, dried daffodils and naked lady leaves. The daffodils will bloom again late winter, early spring next year, while the naked lady lilies, they'll sprout this summer. And you know when to clean them out when they're yellow and dry. I always say it like potato chips. And read a book this week. Books are like gardens in your pocket. I think you'll enjoy Growing with the Goddess Gardener. It's available at cynthiabrian.com. Visit the online store, the Starstyle store. It has 12 months of tips with 12 months of stories from each month. And I also want to just say congratulations to all the graduates. May you continue to bloom. I'm so happy for everyone who has graduated, whether it is preschool, grammar school, junior high, high school, college, or later. Congratulations, all. Well, you're listening to Cynthia Brian. This is Star Style. Be the star you are. We'll be back with a business bite, and then we're going to talk about doctor visits. So please stay with me. Don't go away. Well, no matter how hard a company tries to please its customers, there will always be complaints. According to a recent study by Case Western University, 42% of dissatisfied customers will complain to others about their experiences. 37% will tell the company when there's a problem and they'll ask for satisfaction, and they don't say anything about the bad experience. 14% may return after a bad experience, not telling the company or others. But 14% may stop buying immediately and they don't tell the company, but they will tell many others. And the worst one is 28% will seek revenge and will broadcast the company's shortfall to anyone who will listen, including the media and the government. So if you want customer loyalty, make sure your company has a policy inviting complaints and has an excellent customer service representative who will do what it takes to keep a customer happy. It is much more difficult to cultivate a new client than to retain an existing one. So remember, you're the star of your own performance. Turn your passions into profits. I'm Cynthia Brian with another business bite from Star Style. For more information, visit cynthiabrian.com. That's Brian with an I, cynthiabrian.com. Well, we're back. Thank you so much for staying tuned to Star Style, Be the Star You Are, with me, Cynthia Brian, coming to you on the Voice America Network. This is the Empowerment Channel. Well, I'm sure you've had the experience of having to wait to see a doctor. If you have tried to schedule a doctor's appointment recently, you might have had to flip to another season in order to get an appointment. And the reason is there simply are not enough physicians in the United States. There is a doctor deficit. The current demand for healthcare is immense, and it is said by 2037 The doctor deficit is expected to reach 1,800 and what? No, 1,087 130 doctors, including more than 88,000 cardiologists and 4,000 nephrologists. So, what that means is that patients are going to routinely wait a long time. The average time to get an appointment is around 38 days. And that's when you're able to snag an appointment with the doctor you really need. So, and everyone is trying to see the doctor. So, what are you going to do? Long waits for necessary care can really add to emotional distress, especially when you are already stressed out because you're not feeling well. And it can also open the door to conditions that are not caught or, sadly, not even treated in time. Now, sometimes patients can take some steps to get in sooner. So, here are a few effective ways to see a specialist as soon as possible. And this is information from different experts. Number one is you want to check it to see if the specialist you want to see has multiple locations. Many doctors see patients in a variety of locations, and some of those are busier than others. So always ask for the wait time at an alternative location. Flexibility is your friend when you're in a hurry to see a doctor. Also, ask to be on the cancellation list. Tell the receptionist that you would like to be notified if there is an early appointment that opens up. Now, if you can drop everything and come in at a moment's notice, make sure to note that because sometimes they could call you, because they get um, a last minute scheduling that is canceled, and so then you could go in. You could also ask them what is the percentage of canceled appointments. That can help set your expectations and also ask, do they find that their cancellations come in at the last minute or do you usually get a day or two? If you can't get in to see a specialist, sometimes, depending on the situation, if you have a primary care physician or you have another referring doctor, that doctor could call on your behalf, and that may encourage the specialist staff to squeeze you in. uh, you want to make sure that, like, if you went and you had a routine checkup and they noticed something on your colon or on your breast, it's a possibility it could be cancer. So you want to wait to get in there faster. Another way that has been successful for people is requesting to speak to a practice manager and making a personal plea. For example, you could ask if the doctor has an email, and you could write a short but very, explicit and kind email to make your case to be seen soon. Sometimes this really works because the doctors, especially experienced doctors, they actually want to treat more complex cases because they like a challenge. So don't rule that out. And then consider providers who aren't physicians. I know that I've had a couple of primary care physicians who have moved on to other practices, and right now I don't have a primary care physician. I've been told by the medical office that a nurse practitioner is going to be coming in. Well, nurse practitioners and physician's assistants, they tend to have some greater availability, and they're very much like an extension of the physician. They'll work closely with any doctor to figure out how best to treat you, and they operate a little bit more independently in some offices. So if you have to choose between waiting 6 months or seeing a nurse practitioner next week, always go for the nurse practitioner next week because these providers can get testing started, and often they will spend more time addressing your needs. Plus, once you are a patient at a practice, you'll often have an easier time getting an appointment with the provider you want. So, try some of those tips to shorten your wait at a doctor's appointment. Now, once you get the appointment, it's really important that you are able to explain why you're there and what you need. because so many times doctors will think that a diagnosis or what's happening is in your head. For example, long COVID is a real thing, but doctors didn't really know how to diagnose it. And figuring out what was really going on is a challenge. And so once a doctor knows and can actually diagnose you, it gives you some kind of relief. So what you need to do is to discover and decide how you want to be treated. There are a variety of reasons why patients get misunderstood. And very often they're just told it's anxiety. And it's because anxiety symptoms overlap with those of other medical issues. So it makes it easy for a physical condition to be mistaken for a mental health condition. And if a patient has a history of anxiety, the medical provider might just assume that the symptoms are a recurrence rather than a sign of something new. But the consequences of a misdiagnosis are significant. Um, Patients, that could be you, could suffer longer without any proper treatment. It could make your health worse. And ironically, being told it's just anxiety can actually make you more anxious because then you have to worry that your concerns aren't being taken seriously. And that creates a loss of trust that might dissuade some people from seeking additional medical help. So, what do you do if a doctor doesn't take your symptoms seriously and kind of dismisses them as anxiety? So, here are some tips that you could do for an appointment. Bring someone to the appointment with you. And it has been proven if you can bring a man to your appointment, doctors tend to listen more. I know that sounds sad, but that has been proven. It's helpful to have someone with you, especially if you tend to get nervous or you have a lot of symptoms to remember. Whether it's a friend or a family member, that person can help jog your memory, but also give outside validation and input about what they've seen that's been happening. The second thing is to track your symptoms. And before talking to your doctor, spend time planning the best way to paint a vivid, accurate description of your symptoms. You can reuse it, you can write it all down, or you might use an app that digitally tracks symptoms like mood and migraines. That could be your friend here, and that can help make your case, and the trends can be seen over time. Also, encourage your providers to collaborate. Some providers practice collaborative care, which means a patient specialist will work together, and that kind of integration can help ensure physical symptoms aren't mistaken for mental health ones. If you're not able to go to a collaborative care practice, you can still ask any of your different doctors to communicate with one another. You can say, could you talk to my oncologist, or could you talk to my OBGYN, or however, whatever you need. And then be ready to ask very specific questions. Help your doctor feel like you are part of the team. You might want to suggest some additional workups by saying, is it possible we could do a few extra tests just to rule things out? It would help put my mind at ease. And if your doctor continues to brush off your symptoms as being in your head, just respond by saying, if it's not anxiety, what else could it be? And how is it that you're ruling this out? And if your doctor still isn't willing to run tests, ask specifically why your case doesn't qualify. And here's the one that I use the most. I appeal to my doctor's human side. What I always say when a doctor gives any kind of diagnosis and I don't know what I should do as a solution, I'll say, if it was your wife or your child or somebody you really loved with these symptoms, what would your next steps be? And that question often spurs doctors to consider the situation with really love, patience, and care. And that way, it's not just the patient that they're seeing, before they're trying to get out to lunch, but it's they're thinking about somebody they really care about. And so they tend to be more engaged and give you just a little bit more. Well, I hope that is really helpful for you. So you're going to spring into summer, and now you have some tips on doctor's appointments. That's our show for today. Make sure you are stay tuned here to Star Style Be the Star You Are with me, Cynthia Brian, every week for a new program. And also tune in to Express Yourself Teen Radio, also on the Voice America Network, and also brought to you by Be the Star You Are charity with our teen hosts. For more information about Star Style Productions, or to visit my website, find my books or coaching or speaking, visit cynthiabrian.com. To get in touch with the charity, visit bethestaryouare.org. And for more about the radio, just go to starstyleradio.com. My aim is always to encourage, inspire, inform, amuse, and motivate. See beyond your physical being. Know you are already the star you dreamed of becoming. Cherish the past, dream of the future, and celebrate today and every moment of your life. And do read a book. It's like a garden in your pocket. And until next week, when we celebrate once again, remember that love always wins, kindness always prevails, and smiles will keep us happy. Be kind, be inclusive, tell the truth, live with integrity, embrace cultures, love unconditionally, encourage others, be generous, read, lead, succeed, communicate, collaborate, innovate, be your unapologetically authentic self, and be the star you are, because everyone counts. Thank you for joining me. This is Cynthia Brian from Star Style, and I